Welcome to Behind the Brand, the podcast for small business owners, solopreneurs, and aspiring entrepreneurs who are ready to start strong, stand out, and stay bold. I'm Taylor.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Isabella, and we're part of the powerhouse team of marketers at Moxie Creative.
We're taking you behind the scenes to explore what it takes to build and grow a memorable brand.
Ready to get behind the brand? Let's dive in. Good morning, Moxieverse. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Brand. This is a very exciting episode for Kelly and I because we are joined by Abbey Graves, our podcast host. Hi.
Hello, everybody.
This is a really special treat to have you sitting next to us.
You're in front of the camera instead of behind.
Yeah. It's a little, I'm not going to say uncomfortable, but I would like to be able to see the levels. Luckily, your intern is manning the helm for me, but it's like, if you see my head bobbing around, it's because I'm looking for them.
You're the guest. Let us handle it.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll do what I can.
Abby, we've been working together behind the brand for about 4 months now, and I feel like we know each other pretty well, but we have an audience, we hope, that maybe doesn't know you, isn't as familiar with you. So I'd really like to give just kind of the quick overview of who is Abbey Graves. And I think one of the coolest things about you, and maybe this is because I'm someone who grew up thinking like, oh, that would be such a cool job, is that you are a radio personality. So can we start there? Where did that come from? How was that for you?
It's funny, before we hit record, I was just telling Mo how nerdy of a child I was and how much I loved listening to the radio. That was my entire personality. I still vividly remember getting a boombox for Christmas when I was like 7 years old and just like losing my mind because all I wanted to do was be a radio DJ. I'm like, these people talk on the radio for money. This is what they do. And I've always just been obsessed with music and pop culture and what's cool and what's trendy. And I would sit there and record songs on a cassette tape from the radio, and I'd listen to the top 5 at 9 every night. And I loved music videos and all things celebrity gossip, and that's just the only thing I was ever truly interested in. And so when it came time for high school and you're making those, like, what am I going to do with my life decisions, I actually ended up being in charge of a huge grant from the state for our high school. We had an underage drinking problem in rural Minnesota. Figured that one out. But I was a county employee for my summer job. I worked for Todd County 4-H, and so they're like, "Oh, she's already working for the county. We'll just put her in charge of the student division of this." And I'm like, "Well, you guys, what if we spent some of our money on advertising on the radio and took that approach to trying to stop this problem we had?" And so we came down here to St. Cloud, we recorded a bunch of radio ads, and I was instantly hooked. I'm like, this is it, this is what I'm gonna do. And I ended up going to college for radio broadcasting. I was the last person to graduate from Brown College before they went bankrupt.
Ooh.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah. So that program no longer exists, but they were the school to go to for
that's cool.
creating radio DJs. Some of the biggest names in radio went through that program, and so went through that, got a job at 93X down in Minneapolis right out of college. That was my 10-year goal, was to work there, and they hired me right away. So
wow.
I was Crackhead Abby, working the overnight hours. And
that was your actual name?
Yeah, because I worked the crackhead hours. The only people that were up were crackheads and truckers. So I did that for about a year, and then a full-time opportunity came in St. Cloud, and I worked there for 7 years on the cluster of stations at Town Square Media and lived my best life. It was a dream come true, every second of it.
Oh. Well, what changed? Why are we not a radio DJ anymore?
Yeah.
The only goal since you were a wee little Abby.
Yeah, it turns out radio DJs don't get paid.
Oh.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
You do it because you love it. It's truly a passion project.
Why is that, do you think? Not valued, or
They're not valued for what they do until they leave. That's the main problem, and it's just one of those things where it's like, you're here because you love it and you don't want to do anything else, so you're not going anywhere, you're staying right here. So most people never leave unless there's a big money-making opportunity somewhere else, and those are pretty few and far between. So it literally came down to I couldn't pay my bills, and I was getting paid. Radio comes with a lot of trade, which is something they also don't tell you, but there was a period of time where I was getting paid in ice cream coupons, and I'm deathly allergic to dairy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there's a lot
I'm
of
sorry, I can't help but laugh, but like just the thought of like a full-grown adult who has a full-blown professional job is being paid in ice cream coupons.
Yeah, ice cream coupons, burrito coupons. Like it was
Like, I cannot give this to the power company.
Yeah.
I can't pay Verizon with this.
Yeah.
So it literally came down to having to be a financial decision, which
That's sad, yeah.
it's gut wrenching. But
So then what did you do from there?
I took an opportunity with Stearns County, and I was their communications person for about a year and a half while I built the business I have now. So once I was done at the radio station, I was then allowed to start my own podcast because my non-competes were void and didn't matter anymore. So I started my own, and then as I would have people on my podcast and interview them, they would then turn around and go, well, I kind of want to start a podcast. Can you help me start a podcast? And I'm like, I guess. And it just literally snowballed from helping one person to helping two to then suddenly I was helping 4 and now I have 10. So it literally just was this huge snowball effect that happened over the course of 2 years.
Okay, so that's why we thought it would be a great time to have you on, is because I just saw on Facebook where you celebrated your first anniversary of going on your own. And I remember we met before that when you were doing this part-time. And I can't believe it's been a year already.
I know.
But we're going to dive in more questions about all that, right?
Yeah, for sure. When you left radio, because that was such a, obviously this wasn't just something that you kept like in Abby's mind. Like this was something that your family, your friends, everybody knew about you for so long. And you said, I'm leaving radio. How was that received by your friends and family? Like, were they in shock and awe, or, was it, obviously I'm sure they were understanding.
Yeah,
But
my family saw the writing on the wall, just the financial side of it. Like, you can tell when your family members are like going through it,
Yeah.
I was working 4 jobs, hosting bar trivia, DJing weddings, working any sort of weird side gig I could pick up just to help pay the bills. And they're like, you're exhausted. You're burning the candle at 13 different ends. There's no wax left on this thing anymore. So they saw it coming and they were understanding. But I'm still known as Abbey from 98.1. I just DJ'd a wedding this past weekend, and 3 people, separate people at different points of the night came up to me like, I miss you on the radio. I'm like, I haven't been on the radio in almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
But it was a huge part of my life in this community because I was on a huge station for so long.
Yeah.
So I'm
Kind of take that clout with you. And
exactly, yeah. I'm still Abby from the radio to some people. I'm the podcast lady to others, and it's just, you roll with it. I've been
Yeah.
called worse.
So as you decided to take the leap, you took a job at the county for a while, and in that time, this idea for Abbey Graves production started brewing. Did you start to come up with a business plan, or all of a sudden were you just like full in, this is what I'm going to do? How did all of that come to be?
So I was about 6 months into my job at Stearns County. I was realizing that though it was a wonderful opportunity and I was learning a lot, it wasn't my life's calling to be the communications person for a county entity. So I was like, okay, well, if this isn't it, then what is? And I had actually stumbled across a podcast when I was driving home from the Stearns County Fair after sitting there all day for the county. And it was, her name's Ellen McKenzie. She is a social media manager in New Zealand, and we're the same age. And I was listening to her story and how she had built her own social media management company all on her own while she was also working full-time somewhere else. And I'm like, well, if she can do that, I can do that. That's basically what I'm doing for the county now, but I'm also making podcasts for people. So it's like, I could probably integrate this somehow, and I could be a social media manager. And I ended up buying her course. She is an online coach, so I bought her course, took her class, and she's like, you don't have to totally niche down, but figure out what you're the best at. And I'm like, well, I'm really good at making podcasts, so maybe I just take everything she's teaching and apply that to, instead of being a social media manager, being a podcast producer. So I really just filtered her course through my lens, and it all became really clear to me about October of 2023. I'm like, okay, if I put the wheels in motion here, I could essentially be self-employed by the time the next summer rolls around. If I send out those cold pitch emails, I start the networking process, I meet with people, I let people know that my services exist, and it all ended up working out exactly to plan, which I'm still blown away by.
But you had a target date. I love
did,
that.
yes.
You had a goal. You just didn't go willy-nilly because you still had those same bills to pay.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. I put on my Google Calendar June 1st. I said, if you haven't figured it out by this date, it's time to pivot and find something totally new. And I think I put in my notice at Stearns County May 1st, and I gave them a month notice. I said, by June 1st, I will be out of here, but I will make sure you guys are set up for success. So when I leave, the next person can just float right in, and they're more prepared than anyone ever could be. And I'm going to make sure this is a smooth transition for everyone. So
Well, let's talk all that in between, what you did from that goal setting to that date, should we?
I guess a good place to start, Abby, would kind of be those early days. What are some things maybe that once you said, okay, I'm going out on my own, what are some things that you would have maybe done differently as, now you're, like we said, a year in business? How did that unfold?
So the first day I was full-time self-employed, so we're looking at June 1st last year. I had just enough clients where I was making exactly what I was making at Stearns County. So I'm like,
That's a good transition.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm like, if we're at that level, I know I want to be making more, but I'm at a point now where the workload is, I need to be doing it full time. I'm making the same amount of money. Let's jump ship. We can do this. Unfortunately, day one of my clients dropped me on day one.
Oh, no.
I thought I'd be a little more panicked when that happened, and honestly, I was really okay with it. I think I just put a lot of trust in the universe that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's going to work out.
I'll figure it out.
I'm going to figure it out. My husband put it into perspective really well when I put in my notice at the county. He's like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I said, everyone drops me, and I have to go get another job. And he's like, can you get another job? I'm like, I can get another job. He's like, then just do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love
so
that
supportive.
support. I
Yeah.
love that.
He's a Scorpio, so he's very like even keel.
Balances you out well.
He does. He really does.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so he's like, so everyone drops you, you go find another job. Quick Trip's always hiring.
Yeah. Which probably not everyone is going to drop you.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so day one got dropped by a client, but I also kind of saw the writing on the wall with this one. It was someone that I had in my fury of cold pitching back in January when I'm like, okay, I got 6 months to put my life together here. Let's do this. I was sending cold pitch emails to everyone I thought could use a podcast. And she was one of them. She signed on. She didn't really have a whole lot of direction other than she just wanted a podcast. And I helped her as much as I could, but she lived down in southern Iowa. So not being in person was another huge hindrance. We did meet up in Des Moines one weekend and record, and it was fun and we worked great together. It just wasn't the right time for her to be focusing on that kind of content. And she didn't really have a purpose for it other than for it to exist. Mm-hmm. So
she wasn't ready.
she wasn't ready.
And she didn't drop you because
Yeah.
you didn't do a good job.
Exactly.
But
She-
you have to kind of understand
Yes.
that as a business owner too, right?
100%. I'm well aware this is not a personal thing. It's just a matter of not being in the right place in life and in business for this. And so she dropped me, but then it was a matter of just a week or two where I had like 3 inquiries come in where people are like, I want to start a podcast and I want to start it now. I'm like, great, perfect timing. It was just putting that trust into the universe and going, it's going to be fine. We're going to figure out a way.
In those early days, and even over the last year, because like you said, now you have 10 clients, you've really been able to grow your business. How do you feel like people are finding you?
A lot of it is word of mouth. It is truly the old rumor mill, I guess would be a good word for it. But yeah, like I work with cattle semen salesmen in Melbourne, Australia, and everyone's like, how in the world did you end up working with them? My friend that I work with here locally put me in contact with a cattle rancher in South Dakota who works with a PR company that also works with the cattle semen salesman in Melbourne, whose podcast producer had to go on a high-risk maternity leave. And they're like, we need a podcast producer. Who makes yours?
Right.
It's just a matter of the dots connecting all the way to Australia.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's yeah, so cool. Speaking of that, you host or produce podcasts that are all over the world, and you clearly listen to a lot of podcasts. From our conversations, you've gone to a lot of podcast conferences. You have a few podcasts of your own. What is something that you feel makes podcasts successful?
The secret for success is different for everyone because everyone's topics are so different and what people deem as success is so different.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, if you are proud of the content that you're hitting publish on, that's success. Like if you can post that and you can look back on it 20 minutes later and go, I still love it. It's still great. I'm still proud of what I did. That's a successful show. Because if it's resonating with you, it's going to resonate with at least one other person. There's 7 billion people in this world. someone's going to find it and go, yeah, I needed to hear that.
I needed to hear about cattle semen.
Yep. Someone does.
Someone does.
Those people, they are charting all the time. I get emails every day of like all the podcasts I produce of what's charting in what country, on what continent. And every morning there's an email, Breeder Exchange, moving up the charts.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's really cool. Going back to, you know, some of the business stuff, how do you feel like you are doing things differently maybe than when you started? You know, a year in, a lot of things change. Kelly, you, I think, can probably feel that too. So what are some things that you're doing now that you maybe weren't doing on day one?
My accountant.
Oh, we talk about accountants all the time.
Yes.
Shout out Megan in Roslyn, South Dakota, home of the Vinegar Museum and the best accountant in the world. No, she is truly a shining light on this planet. I'm a creative. You guys are too. It's the bookkeeping, the numbers, the taxes. It's terrifying.
You have to outsource it.
You have to
yes.
outsource it, or
Yes.
you will just drown in it. So,
Have you, speaking of that, have you enlisted any other help on this one-woman show of yours?
yeah, it's been a challenge to trust people enough to take things on. It's, I'd probably say that's one of my biggest hangups is
Sure.
being able to outsource my clients' work to someone else, because the quality of the production, I want it to be there for you guys. Like my biggest fear is putting out something really crappy and someone going, oh yeah, Abby made that. It's like, oh, right to the heart.
Yeah, we
Right.
feel that.
Yeah, right. But I've said this before that, you know, one of the best pieces of advice I received is do what you're best at and outsource the rest. But I get it. There's some things you won't let go of, and production is one of the things that you do.
Yeah, it's Abbey Graves Productions.
Right, exactly. So for you, I would just anticipate between years 2 and 5, you're going to figure out how to scale. And even if you want to scale, not everybody has to scale,
Yeah.
you know, big, or what, you know, again, we talked about this, is what is success to you? Doing what you love at a reasonable pace, hopefully, and a reasonable amount of money, or where's your sweet spot? You'll figure that out,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I think it's a matter of finding the right person to help, and I have created such a specific weird little hole for myself in this world that people are like, oh, so like, who's your main competition? I'm like, I don't know, the AI robots. There isn't just another person I can point to who's doing exactly what I'm doing in our immediate area, or even, I don't even know if I could point to someone in the state that's doing exactly what I'm doing. So it's tough.
That's cool.
It's
Yeah.
cool, but at the same time, it's like, so who do I tap for help?
Right. Yeah, it feels a little bit like you are on an island by yourself, I'm sure.
Well, there's video and audio editors probably
Yes.
out there, but
Yes.
then how much? You see, again, I think you're in that growing pains. I hate to say word pains, but you're in that.
No, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, where you're going to take on anything and everything, and then you're going to figure out how it happens. And I've been there. I've scaled, and I've scaled back down too at times. So there's no answer. I have no answers
Yeah.
for you, Abby. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't have great answers.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, there's some beauty into not having an answer for it too, because every day is going to bring a new challenge and it's going to be different, and I'm just going to figure it out.
Right.
Yep.
But let's just point out that you're not just doing your 10 podcasts. You're still DJing weddings and doing
Music bingo,
Yeah.
trivia. You
Bar
do a
trivia.
lot of other things.
Photo booth
Yeah,
business.
photo booth business. Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think you'll ever, I'm going to say no because you just bought that awesome photo booth, that you're going to decrease some of that because you're doing more podcasts, or do you just love it all?
That's the problem. I've tried to figure out like, well, what could I push completely off my plate and be done with? And I have too much fun doing it. That's the problem. I've figured out how to get paid to party, essentially. I always call it living my Paris Hilton fantasy, because that's what she does. She gets paid to party, and she just has all these like random little side quests, and she's figured out how to make a life for herself doing that.
You just need to get a purse with a little mini dog in
My
it.
dog won't ride in a purse. I've tried.
A big purple purse.
I
with
did
your
get him a
dog.
strollers.
You're in central Minnesota pushing a dog stroller.
Yeah.
Abby and I are in a networking group together, and we had breakfast with our group last week. Something that came out of it is that you went to the circus by yourself. So in that story, what I'm trying to say is you like to be busy. You're not really just like someone who can sit and not be doing things. So for you to have these other little things in between the podcasting days, I'm sure just helps. And it probably is, it's different. You're seeing a different crowd. You're maybe getting some of that radio personality bits happening. I went to your music bingo a few weeks ago, and it was like, this is why she was on the radio.
But you never know who you're going to meet there
Right.
to help with a different side of your business,
Yeah.
right? Kind of when I went into business, it was double down and focus on one thing. And nowadays, it's a little bit more like multiple streams of income, right? And so I think it all probably works together, or will.
Yeah, and it seems to all be fitting. Everything that I have, the audio production, the live events, the photo booth even, it all falls under this umbrella that I've built. It all goes hand in hand. There's a lot of overlap in hardware even, where it's all like, oh, I need that cord for this thing, and that also works for this. So it's a good variety. Like, it's different all the time. Like, I DJ'd a wedding this past weekend, and I have to DJ a ranch rodeo coming up next weekend, and I got a music bingo on Wednesday night, and it's just all these fun little different things where I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, what do I got going today?
Yeah, that is fun. Good thing that you named your business Abbey Graves Productions, not Abbey Graves DJ or Music Bingo or podcast, right?
Abbey
I love
Graves
that.
Music Bingo.
Yeah, naming my business was actually the hardest thing.
Yes, I love that it's open though, because you don't know where it's going to go, right?
That was exactly it. So last year I didn't have my LLC yet, but I had called tax lady Megan in like April because the writing was on the wall. I'm like, okay, June 1st is coming up. We got to get all our ducks in a row if I want to be ready for this. And she's like, okay, what do you want your LLC to be named? And I'm like,
Oh no.
I don't know. And she's like, how about your name? Let's start there. And I'm like, that's the only option we have, because I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just something super specific like podcasting or DJing or photo booths. Like, I want to do it all.
Right. And you're the brand. I
Yeah.
mean, I think, as a radio personality, you have to, I guess you could have called it Crackhead Abbey Production.
I know.
That might have drawn a different crowd.
Yeah.
You might have been flagged by the IRS or something
Yeah,
too.
like, what is she selling?
No Google ads for you.
That seems like a cover up.
Money laundering at Music Bingo.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, so it's Abbey Graves Productions. It's not the most creative thing in the world.
But it works.
It works.
It works
Yeah.
for now, and I'm definitely not ruling out a rebrand down the road when maybe it does get to the point where it is a little more specific. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm so open to whatever happens. Like, I'm just going to ride the wave.
Yeah, but like Kelly said, like, you are the brand, and having been working with you and being in a networking group and hanging out with you and stuff, I can wholeheartedly say that, like, you are Abbey
Just
Graves,
keep it,
you
yeah,
know,
keep
right?
it,
Like,
yeah.
it works so much. But okay, I've loved talking about all this business stuff, but I really do want to talk a little bit about the podcast side of things, because we took a chance on starting a podcast.
Yes, we should talk about how we met, Abby, real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Okay, so I was a guest on a podcast that you produce. So our lovely friend Liz Fiedler had me on her podcast that's named...
Flower Farmer Forum.
Yes.
Ding.
She has a couple. So, and we talked about websites. She had me on as a local expert to talk about websites. And then I met you because I was looking for a DJ that would donate their time for a fundraiser, and you graciously did that. So that's when we first got in contact. And then I became a guest. And then the third time was, hey, do you want to do a podcast? Or I think Liz was pushing me. We should do a podcast.
She's a podcast pusher.
Yeah, she is. And we kind of exchanged emails, and I just couldn't see it. Like, I didn't know what we were going to talk about or whatever. And we were pretty busy figuring out our own stuff. But then eventually, maybe it took about 6 months. And then I I emailed you and said, okay, ready to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's our history. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Also, can we
And
touch
break.
on Promenade, because that disco party was electric. That was so fun. Also, I just saw the email for this year's branding.
You're coming, right? Did I already ask you?
100%.
Okay, good.
I'm locked and loaded, and it looks so good.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to do some line dancing.
You think I don't have my rhinestone boots ready to go? They are sitting there on a shelf just going, is it October yet?
Yeah, I know. I gotta find some things.
Then piggybacking off of that, when we started this, like Kelly said, we were like, I don't really know, like, what do we have to say? We're just a small business. Who's going to listen? Who really cares about whatever we're, coming here to discuss on our podcast? But we got over ourselves pretty quickly on that, and we've loved doing it. But, as a producer and, hearing from all these different small businesses, whether it's a solopreneur a couple entrepreneurs, small business, midsize, etc. Why do you feel like podcast is a good avenue for businesses to start tapping into?
The beautiful thing about podcasts is when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, there's really no rules. It's all about showcasing you, your expertise, what you want to talk about, what you want to do. Your show can be as short as long as you want it to be. You can repurpose it in any way you need it to be repurposed, whether you need a blog on your website, an email sent out once a week, you need social media content. It is the perfect place to start for literally everything that you could possibly need. Like when I explain that to people, they're like, oh, so it's not just audio on Spotify. No, it can be any and everything you want it to be. So I think it's just the perfect media. It's like Play-Doh. You can make anything out of it.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun.
I think the biggest hang up for me was, who are we going to speak to? Because, our marketing brains is, we would love it if this helped with business development.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the consumers of our content are other creatives, which is fine. And we could have done a podcast about that easily, I think. But we wanted to make a podcast that was a little bit more digestible to more people, I guess, and talk to small business owners. So we thought, that would be a great idea. Obviously, we still talk about what we do a lot. And like you said, there's no rule. Getting that straight in my head was, I think, the biggest obstacle.
But, once we went in on it, I think it's been a great choice for us. It's really helped our marketing strategy. All the things that you just listed, blogs, emails, social, etc. We're taking our podcast and using it for all of those things. So we are living, breathing proof that what you're saying is something that can happen. I write an email for Moxie every month, and I highlight one episode that we talked about for the month in there. And, we grew out our website. We added a full podcast page. It really has helped our marketing strategy and made things just a little bit easier for us. Yes, we have to cut out some time now to record podcasts, but that's so fun. I was not expecting to love it as much as I do, and it's always one of my favorite days of the month. My next question is a piggyback on that. Again, I am someone who listens to a lot of podcasts. That's primarily what I listen to. I think when I started working with Kelly, she's like, we need to get you on your own cell phone plan because your data is not through the roof. And I'm like, I just listen to podcasts. I don't know.
Because you're driving, so you
'cause I'm
can't be on
driving.
Wi-Fi. Unlimited data.
So I'm just constantly listening to podcasts. And it feels like, there is a podcast for everything, and there's 10 billion podcasts for not that many for one thing or whatever. It feels like it can be a oversaturated market. As a podcast fan, what are your thoughts when you hear people say that? Because I'm sure you've had that feedback before.
Yes, 100%. And I love to use murder podcasts as an example because, yes, there are a billion of them, but everyone has their favorite.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to gravitate to the people that you feel a connection with, who's talking about a very specific thing that you're interested in. Like Ellen McKenzie, my social media person. I found her podcast, and same age, same boat. Like, you connect with those people. I listen to so many podcasts. It's amazing I still have time to listen to podcasts, even though I'm editing so many every single week. But one of my favorites is it's called Free with Ads. And it's just these 3 comedians.
That's funny.
Who watch free movies on YouTube and review a different free movie every week. They're not big name celebrities. I'd call them D-list celebrities.
Sure.
But there's just 3 people who I find hilarious watching crap movies. And I'm like, I also like to watch crap movies. This is great. And they just sit there and they pick out, okay, this is the tallest guy in the movie. This is the worst hat in the movie. This is the hottest person in the movie. And that's it. That's the premise of the show. But I'm like, it resonates with me. And you find those shows, you find those people, you just connect with them.
Right. Not every podcast is to learn something.
Right,
It's
exactly.
just for entertainment, too.
Yeah.
Correct? So how do people cultivate audiences for podcasts?
A lot of it is social media. That's where you find anything these days. But also staying vigilant with things like making sure it goes on your website, building that SEO. Liz is a perfect example. She's getting tens of thousands of hits on her website every single month because we convert every show into a blog post. And it's just all optimized.
Creating that content.
Yes, it's creating more content. It's putting it out there. It's getting it on Pinterest. It's getting it on YouTube. It's putting it on those search engines where people are looking for very specific things and catering to those specific things.
So we're just a baby in the podcast world. So we're just getting there. I mean, we're doing all the things. We'll see. Someday we'll grow up to be Liz.
Exactly.
Yes, and we'll have all that optimization. But you help her with some social media too. Part of your podcast packages are to kind of help with that dissemination of the content, correct?
Yes.
Are you doing that still? Okay,
Yep.
good.
I like to say that I like to let my podcast clients have the fun part of podcasting, which is sitting here, recording with the fun gear, talking into the microphone, and then I handle the rest. I take what they view as the hard part or the part that they don't want to learn. Well, that's the part that I think is the fun part.
Sure.
Like, I will sit in front of my computer hunched over and meticulously edit audio until the cows come home, because that's what I went to school for. That's what I live for. It's what I've always wanted to do. So you guys get the fun part, but I also get the fun part. And together it makes one cohesive product.
Great.
Yeah, I love that. So if someone out there is listening and they have been wanting to start a podcast, what is kind of that first step? Whether it's they do it, I've heard you talk, you don't need to have a producer. Like if you have a phone and a voice recorder, you're fine. So what is that kind of step if someone is interested in starting a podcast?
Like you mentioned, if you have a cell phone, you can have a podcast. It's a matter of pointing the camera at you or just opening the voice recording app and sharing your thoughts. Now, if you want it to be a polished product, you're going to need some sort of basic editing. If you have a phone, iMovie works great, but there's services that are like Riverside and Descript, which they're free to start, and then you can pay for the higher tiered packages and whatnot. But there's a lot of great online services that are dedicated to helping you edit a podcast and make a finished show. And then distribution, you need a simple distribution platform. I have you guys set up on rss.com. I think that's the easiest one to use. I think it's the most affordable one as well. And yeah, you just got to start putting that content out into the world. Eventually, you're probably going to get to the point where you're like, this is a lot of work. That's when you reach out to someone to help with the editing, to help with the production, with the social media, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
not someone, Abby.
Me, ideally, but I can't do every podcast.
So I want to ask her, what if someone is thinking about turning maybe a hobby into a career? Because that's what you did. What advice would you have?
I have a problem with that.
Yes.
I also ran a dog bandana business at one point in a past life. So.
Okay, so you must have some advice. I mean, because some people are afraid to make the leap, right?
Yeah, and it is scary. Like I said, I paced and I cried and I toiled over this, but it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, this is the amount of money I need to live. Like, this is going to cover the basics, and I can maybe have $20 of free money. Like, if that's your threshold, great. Take the leap. You're gonna figure it out. The universe will provide what you need when you need it, and that's not to say everything is sunshine and rainbows, because it definitely isn't. There's hard to this too, but if you bet on yourself, you're gonna win.
Yeah,
I
love that. What is next for Abbey Graves Productions?
You and my business coach asking me that question. I did get hooked up with a business coach through a program here in downtown St. Cloud. So I've been working with
That's exciting.
Sandy Wolf. She's been fantastic.
Oh, I know Sandy.
Yeah, she's been so fantastic to work with. We're actually looking, she's been asking me, what's next? What are you going to do next? What's kind of the next step forward for you and your clients? I'm actually looking at expanding into the internal podcasting space. This is an external podcast. It's for public consumption. Anyone can find it online and listen to it. We're looking at more of working with larger companies that maybe have multi-campus locations where they're trying to maintain company culture and make sure everyone's on the same page, being notified about new developments and news, and just getting to know staff in other locations. So creating podcasts for them to consume internally as an organization is kind of the next step.
I love that. I think that is so cool, especially with the way that remote work is, taking over the world. My little sister just got her first job out of college, and she's working at an agency, and they're fully remote. And I'm like, I just don't understand how
They have more than 7 people.
Yeah, right, exactly. but I just can't conceptualize it. Like, how are you staying connected? How are you talking to people and getting to know everybody and whatever? And I think that would be such a cool way
Yeah, I love
to
that.
get to know your company as a whole through a podcast. I mean, a weekly listen on a Monday morning. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah, just a quick little something or other. It can be long, or
feels like an easy sell. I know it won't be, but
much more consumable than an email, right?
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
going to read that?
Everyone just deletes the email. From my experience working at the county in communications, no one reads the email
That you wrote.
Exactly. But there's all these, like, I know Stearns County uses a like intranet of like, hey, this is like the county homepage for employees. This is something you could throw up on that and be like, hey, get to know this department head, or here's
Yeah.
the latest project we're working on.
You could listen
rolling
to
out.
while you're walking or running
Yes, exactly.
or
Or
making
just
dinner.
start your day with a little news blurb of what's going on in your company. So
Yeah.
that's the next step for AGP.
Yeah, super cool.
Ooh, you're an
love that.
acronym. You're really going places.
I love acronyms. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys have noticed. Sometimes I put it like when I'm labeling things like MP is Moxie Podcast.
I love it. It works. Well, thank you, Abby, so much for sitting down with us today. We've loved having the opportunity to work with you the last couple of months, and we can't wait to continue to build this podcast with you and watch your business grow. It's been a really fun year. Like Kelly said, we've been hearing about it from the very start. So to see you get to this level in such a short amount of time is really awesome, and we're really proud of you. Before you leave, and you know what's next, I didn't send you the questions because I'm like, Abby gets to hear them
Every week.
once a month. So she should be a little bit well aware. Before you leave, I want to ask you our 2 guest questions. We do this to keep all of our guest episodes a little bit connected. So what is your go-to business tip for others that are thinking about starting a business?
I've said it already, but I truly believe in it. You got to bet on yourself, because when you put all of your eggs in your own basket, you're going to carry them and you're going to protect them. So bet on yourself. The universe will provide. You can do it.
I love that. And then as you went out on your own and throughout this last year, what is one piece of advice you've received that's made a difference?
I think it was the advice from my husband when I was ready to take the leap. What's the worst thing that could happen?
And that's the most important. I'll say I didn't necessarily have that support when I started, but I love that he was the one that said that, because then you know it's okay.
Yes.
Because he's going to have to pay the bills for a little bit. Yeah.
And honestly, he didn't have to. We were very blessed. Like
That's great.
I bet on myself. I was very strategic with taking the leap. I didn't just go, okay, and now we're going to take out a $20,000 loan
Right.
to pay for something. Like, I was very strategic about everything, and we've been very blessed. And I count my lucky stars every single day. But his just being there saying, what's the worst that can happen, and can you handle the worst that could happen? And with the answer being yes, there's no reason not to go for it.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Abby. We appreciate you sitting in on this one with us. It's been so fun to get to
She
talk
wore
to
her
you a little bit
purple
more.
blazer.
Yes, I know. So on brand. We love it. We love it. All right. Wonderful. Well, that is it for this episode of Behind the Brand. We will see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Behind the Brand. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend. If you didn't, share it with an enemy. To keep up with us, follow along on our socials. Links are in the show notes below.